Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Merlin Season 5, Episode 7, The Hollow Queen. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens in the episode. So the episode begins with Gwen finding a boy while on patrol with the rest of the knights, who she invites into the castle, and he is found by Merlin, who he tells a sob story to about his sister being injured in the Valley of the Kings, and eventually he manages to convince Merlin to go with him to try to find her so that he can heal her. And Merlin then leaves, and when they do enter the Valley of the Kings, there are bandits there, which they hide from, but then Merlin realizes that there is no sister, and unfortunately he doesn't realize in time to avoid Morgana's attack. Morgana then uses her magic to attack him, which leads to him being knocked unconscious, and Morgana then pours poison into his mouth before paying Daigle, the boy who lured him out, with money, and then Daigle leaves, so does Morgana, and Merlin's left lying there. He does wake up and attempt to use his magic, but it doesn't really work, and he is left there to die. Meanwhile, back in Camelot, we have King Sarum arriving to form a pact or a treaty with Camelot with Arthur, and it starts with a little bit of an exhibition fight between Arthur and Albin, which Arthur loses. Then they have a dinner where Sarum brags about how he had been the one to hold Morgana captive for 2 years, and he did so by using her love of Athusa to basically keep her compliant, and that he's also the reason Athusa is crippled because he was keeping them in such a confined space that Athusa wasn't able to grow properly, and that is how she ended up becoming twisted and crippled and unable to speak, etc. We then move on from there where Guinevere meets with Morgana. Morgana tells her to use Sarum's arrogance against him and to work with him, and then once they've accomplished their goal, they can get rid of him. And so Gwen then approaches Sarum to basically have him assassinate Arthur, and she'll set it up at the treaty signing, and then, she'll give him a certain amount of land. He then decides to use Albin for the assassination, basically stating that once Arthur's gone, they'll just have to deal with a serving girl playing queen, and he thinks it'll be easy to get rid of Gwen. So he has no problem working with her to actually kill Arthur at this point. Meanwhile, back with Merlin, we have Daigle returning with a change in his mind. Merlin gives him the ingredients for the antidote. Daigle creates it, saves Merlin. They then head back to Camelot. Merlin fights the bandits with magic to get by them, which reveals his magic to Daigle, before they then return to Camelot, and Merlin notices a door that's supposed to be closed is open. They go up a flight of stairs to basically a viewing balcony where Albin is set up with a crossbow to try to kill Arthur. He sees them come in, shoots the crossbow at them, which Merlin manages to dodge. He then throws a knife, which again Merlin dodges, but Daigle doesn't. And Merlin then is able to send another dagger back at Albin as he's about to shoot Arthur again, and that skews his aim enough that he ends up shooting Sarum instead, leaving Arthur alive. And then Merlin goes to celebrate with Daigle, only to find that he has been stabbed as he was not able to dodge the dagger that was sent at him, and that he's happy to have done at least one good thing in life since then. And basically everything ends happily. However, Gwen, when Arthur was running around trying to find Merlin, who is missing, told a lie that Merlin was out with a girl, which he then has to pretend is true, which again heightens his suspicion on Guinevere in the last scene of the episode. But that's essentially what the plot of this episode was. And that brings us now to the rankings, where we'll rank the mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. So to start with, we have our single episode supporting character introductions. And this we have Sarum, who is a king of his own kingdom, followed by Daigle, who was the commoner boy hired by Morgana to lure away Merlin so she could kill him. And then Albin, who beats Arthur in a fight and then tries to assassinate him. And that's 3 points total. Then we have another 3 points for the impactful / memorable, moment line, etc. And this is where bias and judgment can come into the mostly objective ranking list. One of, in my opinion, the funniest moments. In this episode, it was the funniest moment for sure, but throughout the series, I think it's one of the standout moments, which is why I'm willing to give it 3 points. While Merlin's off helping Daigle, Gaius is basically covering for him, and Arthur assumes he's in the tavern, but then he basically is like, how is he going to get dressed? And Gaius is like, I'm sure it's not that hard. And then Arthur asks him if he can do it, and he, of course, is like, well, obviously, like, can't anybody do it? It's not hard. And so Arthur takes off his shirt and then, like, basically bends over to get Gaius to help him put his shirt on because he apparently can't dress himself, even though before Merlin, like, he's gone on camping trips, he's gone on trips with the knights. I'm sure he knows how to put a shirt on and off. Like, I'm not really sure why he didn't, but anyways, he does the whole bend over thing to try to get the Gaius to put the shirt on, and Gaius does attempt to help him, but he instead puts on Gwen's nightgown, which Arthur ends up getting stuck in, and I just think that it's a really chuckle-worthy scene. So 3 points for that, bringing us to 6. And then we have the multi-season main character development, which of course is Merlin being poisoned, and that's worth 4 points, bringing us up to 10 points total. However, I did take 1 point off for the character regression. Arthur has been throughout the series renowned for his swordsmanship, and outside of people who have cheated, he hasn't really lost any fights. So the fact that he lost against Albin, this random foot soldier of King Sauron, is kind of like out of character for him because he's supposed to be very talented. He's been set up as a character that's very talented and outside of cheating, again, hasn't lost. So I just felt like it was really, really odd that he would just randomly lose to this random foot soldier. Um, and that is why I did decide it was worth taking 1 point and that it was a regression of his character, um, bringing us to a 9 out of 10 for this episode. So, our mostly objective ranking, we have in first Arthur's Bane, followed by the Death Song of Uther Pendragon, the Desir, the Hollow Queen. This episode comes in 4th place, followed by Another Sorrow, the Dark Tower, and A Lesson in Vengeance is in 7th place. Now, for my personal ranking of the episode, I did enjoy it. I did feel like it had entertainment value. It took some breaks from the drama with the whole Arthur so reliant on Merlin that he can't like even get dressed without him. And the whole nightgown situation was fun. I also liked Merlin, going out of his way to help Daigle. Daigle's um, change of heart in the end. His death didn't really have much of an impact, but it did get an aw type moment because it was like, oh, how sweet. He feels like he's finally done something good. He came back. He had his crisis of conscience, his whole character development arc from, hired commoner willing to lure someone to their death to saving him to then helping defeat an assassin and dying in the process. I liked that little arc of the story. Sarum obviously is made to be very dislikable because he is a villain. And even though the person he held captive was also a villain, I do happen to like Morgana, and I did like Athusa, and I think especially with Athusa, what happened to her is tragic, so I was not upset that he ended up being shot by his own assassin, his own man. Um, so I liked that character arc as well. With Gwen, obviously, never been a huge fan of the character. I do think, the brainwashing idea is a good one, and it did lead to some interesting episodes in the last couple of episodes. But at this point, I feel not betrayed, and it is still, you know, like if they had cured her too fast or figured her out too fast, it wouldn't have been believable. But I also feel like I am getting a little bit like, instead of her directly plotting, she basically is told by Morgana to like agree with Serum, and I'm like, they could have done the Serum plot without her. Like she wasn't necessary to this particular plot as far as like betraying Arthur. Like she didn't even need to, and Serum probably would have still done what he did anyways because he's an evil person by nature. I guess the only thing that she did was kind of be the catalyst to give him the idea of an assassination. But again, I'm not entirely certain that he wouldn't have tried anyways, even if she wasn't there at some point, because he is evil. Um, so I didn't really feel like her brainwashing or betrayal was even necessary in this episode, so it kind of didn't have any impact. Um, but again, funny, good character arcs on the side characters that were single episode characters. Um, Merlin's poisoning and luring away was a great distraction tactic, and I know why Morgana did it because even she acknowledges how important Merlin is to Arthur. Arthur's helplessness without Merlin was amusing again. Gaius having to kind of cover for him and also kind of help Arthur in Merlin's stead was also highly amusing. So there was entertainment value. I just wasn't super keen on the whole main plot. And that is why I have decided a 7 out of 10 is what we will give this episode. And that brings the personal ranking to in first, we have Arthur's Bane, Another Sorrow, The Death Song of Uther Pendragon. This episode came in fourth, The Hollow Queen, followed by A Lesson in Vengeance, The Dark Tower, and in last and seventh place right now is The Desir. And that brings us now to the series ranking so far. On our mostly objective ranking, we have Season 4 in first, followed by Season 2, Season 3, and then Season 1 in fourth place. Season 5 so far has a score of 54 out of a possible 110. Meanwhile, on the personal ranking side, we have Season 4 in first, followed by Season 3, Season 2, and then Season 1. And Season 5 so far has a score of 50 out of a possible 110. But with that, we have now rewatched and ranked Merlin Season 5, Episode 7, The Hollow Queen. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.